and welcome to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm your host, Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. Today's episode is A Mobile App Makes Sense Now More Than Ever. I'd like to introduce my guest, Tanner West, application developer at Code and Color, a mobile app and website design and hosting firm in Tennessee.
Hey, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today, Tanner. If you'd like to learn more about Code and Color, please visit codecolor.com. In the interest of full disclosure, I'm informing our listeners that Code and Color does provide mobile apps and websites to SIAA member agencies at favorable pricing. Our discussion on this episode of Insurance Agents Talk Shop surrounds the importance of having a mobile app as part of your agency's client service. Given the current environment, many people are seeking ways to conduct business, gain information, and maintain connections without having to physically visit offices or people, or at least lessening the frequency of such visits. So let's take it from there. Tanner, has your company Code and Color experienced an increase in requests for mobile apps since the COVID-19 outbreak?
Yeah, definitely we have. I think in general, agencies are starting to really warm up to see the value of having a mobile app in general. But I think since the pandemic started, that desire has only increased as agencies are looking for ways to, as you just mentioned, they're looking for ways to avoid face-to-face contact when it's not absolutely necessary, and they're trying to find ways to provide the service to their clients in a safe, more remote way. And there's no better opportunity to provide that kind of service than a mobile app.
Great. Okay. So I guess we probably both anticipated that would be the case. But as agents do think about going forward with mobile apps, is there something that they should pay particular attention to as they embark on that process of having one built for their agency?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing in particular that's not immediately obvious, if you're an agent and you're shopping around for an app developer to build an app for you, one thing you may not consider is you really want to have an app that's published to the app stores under your name. And what I mean by that is some developers who build apps for agents, they'll publish just one app that basically all of their agencies share. So in other words, if you're an agent and you tell your client, hey, we have a mobile app, you should download it. Your client's going to have to go to the app store. They're going to have to search for a company that's not your company name. They have to download the app, and they're going to basically have to scroll through a list of agencies that are serviced through that app, select their agency, and then go from there. And then they're not going to see your company name in that app. They're going to see the name of the developer. So as an alternative to that, the approach that Code and Color takes, and I think this is the better approach, is we actually publish apps in the name of the agency who we're building it for. So in other words, when your client searches for the app in the App Store, they're searching for your company name. When they download it, it's going to be your company logo, your icon that they see on their app page as they scroll through their apps every day. So that's a really good way to keep your agency, front and center in the minds of your clients. Keep your name at the top of mind, and it's a really good way to continue to build that brand recognition and to continue to keep your client on your company on clients' minds. Because a lot of times insurance is one of those things that we want to avoid. We don't want to have to think about it all that often until we need it. Until we have some accident or we need to renew our policy. But if you have that app on your client's phone, they're going to continue to think about you, and you're not going to be easily forgotten.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's an interesting point, because being a marketing guy, I'm all about the brand, right? And having your brand present on the mobile device that the client is using. But I want to question or clarify if there's some additional expense associated with handling it that way, because I do know that we've dealt with other vendors in the past who were big on making sure that it was the individual agency's name, logo, brand, essentially that was present on the app stores. But then, of course, there were some tweaks done by both Apple and Google that required that folks now have to have a developer's license, if you will, in addition to getting their app itself developed. So, is that something that you folks sort of build into your pricing structure, or is that a big expense for agents, or how does that play out?
Well, in terms of having the developer account that you mentioned, Apple charges a $100 fee annually to publish apps to the App Store, and that's something that the agent will have to pay themselves out of pocket. We don't include that in our costs. And similarly with the Google Play Store, which is where you publish Android apps, they charge, I think it's $50, and that's just a one-time fee. So you pay that once, and you never have to pay it again. For the life of your app, and for any other apps you want to publish subsequently. And again, we don't build that into our costs. But in terms of the value that you're getting, for that fee, it doesn't seem to us to be much of a cost. And to your point about each agent having to have their own developer account, that's something that we do require each agent to set up for themselves, because there is some, especially with Apple, there are some pretty strict requirements in terms of proving that you are the business that you claim to represent in the App Store. So what that process looks like is, once a client has decided they want us to build a mobile app for them, we will then give them instructions for how do they get in contact with Apple, and how do they. There is a organization called Duns and Brad, or I think it's Duns and Bradstreet, that creates a Duns number, which is a database of companies in the United States, and each company in the United States, more likely than not, already has a Duns number in that database, and that's how Apple will identify your company as being legitimate. So you have to provide your DUNS number to Apple. There's a verification process where you get on the phone with Apple and you tell them, yes, I have the legal right to represent this company. And then from there, you can set up your Apple developer account. And from there, you can make one of us at Code and Color an admin on your account. And then from that point forward, after that initial setup, you never have to log into your account again if you don't want to. We can take it from there. So once that initial setup is complete, the ball is totally in our court, and we can handle developing, publishing, updating the app from there. Now, the Google Play Store, where we publish Android apps, is a little bit more simple. They don't have the rigorous verification process that Apple has. You pretty much pay the $50 fee and you're good to go. You can make us the admin on your account, and then we can take over publishing and updating the app from there.
And that's a good point. And I've been through that process myself. We use a mobile app for various events here at SIAA. And I guess what I wanted to follow up on just momentarily, because it is a pet peeve of mine from a security perspective, is that the agent would set Code and Color up as an admin, not the owner. They would not have to share login credentials or anything along that lines once they've established somebody at Code and Color as an admin on their account, and they can actually go in and change that at any time that they deem necessary.
That's right. You can share as little or as much privileges as you want. We can't even, when we're assigned as an admin on a account, we can't even accept new terms and license agreements from Apple. Apple really takes security seriously, especially in terms of apps being published. So no, we couldn't go in there and have access to financial information or anything that could legally bind your company to any kind of contract or anything. It's the line is very clear between owner and administrator. Yes.
Good. Good. Okay. So a couple of follow-ups on that then. Can we expect, or can an agent expect that their agency mobile app will behave in the same manner, regardless of whether or not they're dealing with, or whether they're dealing with Apple or the Google Play Store Android device?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes. We use a platform that lets us essentially build the same app for both platforms. So, in terms of features, they're going to be exactly the same app. The only differences would be purely cosmetic because, Apple and Android have slightly different user interface elements that they use. But in terms of what the app actually does in terms of functionality, they're going to be exactly the same.
Okay. All right. So now Code and Color has been building mobile apps for insurance agents for a little while now, and I'm just wondering, with that experience and what your your knowledge gain here is, how long is that process to build a mobile app? Not necessarily from the ground up, because I'm assuming that you're building on things you already know, or technology is software you've already coded, kind of deal. But when an agent is dealing with a vendor who has experience in building insurance agency mobile apps, about how long should they expect that process to take?
So that process, that lead time, it can vary depending on a number of factors. The biggest one really is, as I just mentioned, that initial setup for the developer account, especially in terms of the Apple account. That process, depending on whether the company we're dealing with already has that DUNS number in the database, or whether they need to apply for a new one, and the subsequent verification process where the owner has to, or some representative at the company has to get on the phone with Google and say, yes, I am who I say I am. That process can take a week. If the agent is doing their due diligence and really staying on top of step by step what they need to do, that process, like I said, it can take around a week to from start to finish. But then once that's finished, once that account is set up, and once we have admin access to the account, and after we have all of the information and assets we're going to need to actually publish the app, so contact information, the list of carriers, any kind of quote portal that the agent wants to integrate, brand colors, brand icons and logos. Once we have all those assets, we can actually get the app published in a matter of a day or two. So best case scenario, if the agent is willing to stay on top of the requirements, about 2 weeks is typically what we're looking at. There are some factors that can extend that, but 2 weeks is the best case scenario in most cases for publishing most apps.
Okay, so ultimately, what I want, I guess, our listeners to understand is that it's not a 6-month process. It can happen fairly quickly.
No.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let me then move to we've been kind of technical in nature here so far. Let's talk a little bit about mobile apps in general in the insurance field. And I've seen a few of them over the years, or a number of them for independent insurance agents. And I've noticed, though, that technology's evolved a bit. Can you talk a little about what tend to be the most common uses of insurance agency apps, mobile apps, on the part of their clients?
Sure. The biggest uses for apps are those things that traditionally a client would have to get on the phone for, or visit your office to manage. So that would be things like submitting claims. If they have a car accident or a home claim, our app provides a form where they can fill in all of the information about where the accident happened, what are the details. They can upload photos. They can we actually have a map in the app where they can show the location of the accident that occurred. We have an audio recordings feature. So, if you're on the scene of an accident and you just want to quickly take down some notes, you don't have time to write it, you can actually record that in an audio file, and that gets sent over to the agent. So submitting claims. Another one is policy changes. So if a client wants to add or remove a driver or a vehicle from their auto policy, they can just submit that information through the app, and they can do that on their own terms. They don't have to make sure that they do it during the business hours. They don't have to make sure that they don't have to interrupt their day at work to make that phone call. Once they get home and on their own time, they can just fill out that information and submit it. Makes it very convenient for them. Another aspect is quote requests. So our app has the ability to integrate with popular quote platforms like EasyLinks. If that's something you have set up for your agency, we can integrate that in the app so that clients can actually request and receive quotes in the app. And then finally, payments is another big one. We have a screen in the app that links out to all of your carrier's payments pages on the web pages. So we're not actually collecting, payment data. We're not collecting credit card data in the app itself. But what we're doing is we're just offering a convenient interface so that the user can access the payment page of their respective carrier for their policy and make that payment through the app instead of having to, go to their browser, navigate, search for that carrier, find the payments page. We've just, included convenient links for those payment portals in the app. Those are the big applications that we see people using.
Gotcha. Sure. And that makes some sense. That's quite a bit, actually, in terms of what the mobile app is able to help their clients do or accomplish. What I'm thinking about now is the fact that I've always been an advocate of a website is not something that you set and forget, meaning you get it set up and then you walk away and don't pay attention to it for a year. I presume that a mobile app is along those lines, but I'm not quite sure. So I'm wondering if you might explain a little bit about how much time an agent would expect to put into working on the mobile app on a weekly basis.
Well, once the app is published, there's not a whole lot that the agent really has to do. Um, we keep the app updated in terms of security, and we'll go along every so often and make UI changes just to make sure that the user interface doesn't start to look out of date. We've all opened an app and you're like, man, this app is obviously 15 years old. We don't want that to ever happen with our apps, so we're gonna constantly update for security, and then we're gonna give it a user interface refresh every once in a while when it needs it. The only thing that the agent really has to do is, if they need to add or remove a carrier from their list in the app, they can let us know about that. If they want to add a form, for example, if they want to start accepting some other type of claim that's not already being accepted in the app, they just need to let us know and we'll take care of that. So there's not a whole lot that they have to worry about. If there's any feature that the app doesn't have, or any kind of screen, any kind of informational screen that they want in the app that's not there. Like, for example, one of our clients has a getting started screen on the app that's sort of a beginner's tutorial that kind of explains how to get going with the app and how to get the most of it. We can set something like that up for the client. Just any kind of informational screen that explains common insurance terms or FAQs, something like that. If an agent wants to add something like that to the app, all they have to do is just let us know, and we can update the app for that.
Very good. Okay, so it is a lot more static in terms of the requirement on the part of the agent once it is established. So, what about the transactions or the actions taken on the part of clients with the mobile app that generate paperwork or systems work or some kind of work inside the agency? Meaning, if somebody were to come in and were to utilize the mobile app because an accident did occur, a fender bender, and they take photos, they complete information, that is being fed where as part of that mobile app?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. And how that works is all of that information you just mentioned that's generated when the client submits that information is it's just going to create an email for the agent. So when we initially set up the app, we're going to ask you, where do you want this information to go in terms of somebody in your agency? It's totally customizable. So if you want every claim, every request to go to one agent, we can do that. If you want home claims to go to one person, auto claims to go to a different person, and you want, auto policy requests to go to somebody different, we can accommodate that. But what's going to happen is whoever is configured to receive that information is just going to get an email, and it's going to just list, all of the information that the client submitted, and it's going to have as attachments to that email, all of the image or audio files that they may have submitted.
Okay. All right. So it's basically from the mobile app into the system via email, and then the agent is dealing with it at that point as they would through other means as well. So that makes sense, and it sounds like it's actually a pretty neat way to get that information from the app to the agent without them having to do more in terms of investment in additional technology, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Very good. So Tanner, do you have a sense of the percentage of independent insurance agencies or insurance agencies in general that are using mobile apps at this point in time in support of doing business and communicating with clients?
I really don't have any data to that end, but I imagine that it's just growing every single day, especially with the changes caused by the pandemic that we mentioned earlier. I've heard people say that the pandemic hasn't really changed the course of how industries are developing. They're just accelerating that. And I think that a mobile app is something that eventually all agencies will want to have if they want to stay competitive. And I think if the past 20 years have really taught us anything, it's that all companies really do have to become tech companies, whether they want to or not. Whether you're an insurance or the mom and pop bakery at the corner, you're really competing on technology, whether you like it or not. So because every client, every consumer out there is going to expect for any business that they encounter to have some kind of digital presence, whether it's just a website or whether it's a full-blown app. And so I think that companies who can't build their own solutions should really find a partner who understands how to deliver those solutions. And to take that even further, I think that it would really pay for a lot of agents and any business owners really to just understand the basics of technology. Just to take a few minutes to research how do search engines work, and what are the best practices in terms of user experience when they're in terms of digital products. And I think that knowledge is really going to pay off in the long term of how you can serve your customers.
Sure. So given that some thought, can you talk a little bit about why I would want, as an insurance agent, why I would want a mobile app as opposed to just a mobile-friendly website?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And one of the big advantages of having a mobile app that I think a lot of people really don't consider is if you have a website, you really don't want your clients to have to be searching for you in Google. Why is that? Because what's the first thing that you see on a Google results page? It's going to be ads, right? So if I'm looking to find my insurance agent and I'm going to go to Google, I'm going to search their name. The first 5-6 results I'm going to see on that page are more than likely going to be ads for my competitor. Okay. I don't want my client to be seeing ads from competitors because no matter how happy they are with my service, I really don't want them to be tempted to even shop around, and beyond that, we all know that when you search for a search term, you're going to see ads related to that term for the next 5 days. Whether you go to a web page or you go to Facebook, you're scrolling through. And when these are insurance related terms, more than likely, those are going to be ads for, your big national carriers like Progressive and Geico. And it just opens up this whole Pandora's box of, all these temptations for my clients to be shopping around with other carriers. So one advantage of the app that we always really like to push is you can keep your client from having to go online and having to be exposed to all those ads from competitors. They don't even have to open their browser. They just tap on the icon. That's always on their app. That's always keeping your icon in mind. They just tap on that, and there it is. That's everything they need to interface with your company. They don't have to go anywhere else. Not only is it a matter of convenience, but it's kind of a matter of protecting your business too, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yep, it makes sense, and it's also sounds like I've always considered it a way to strengthen the brand by having that icon or that logo on the mobile device. So that does make some sense. The mobile app itself, does it need to work with an agency management system? I mean, do you need to have an agency management system in order to have a mobile app? And even if you don't have to have one, should you have one for your mobile app?
All you need, Doug, to get the mobile app working for you is an email address. That is the only requirement. Like I said, as long as you have an email address and you can receive that information from clients, then you're good to go. That being said, we are working on integrating our app with the major management systems. Now, those systems are all in different stages in terms of how if and to what extent we can integrate with them. So our goal is to integrate with all of them. But the first one that we're going to be rolling out here in early next year is going to be QQ Catalyst. So starting hopefully in the first quarter of next year, any agent who has QQ Catalyst as their agency management system is going to be able to tell clients that when they download the app, they can log into the app and it's going to recognize the agent's email address, and it's going to pull whatever account data, whatever policy data exists in that QQ Catalyst database, and they're going to be able to browse through those policies on their phone. So that's something that we want to eventually have in place for all of the major management systems. But it's like I said, it's going to be a matter of time before all of those systems have the integration built out for us to use.
Okay, so in order to have like a full disclosure component of this conversation, then it does sound like it would require, if I do use an agency management system, but the mobile app is not set up yet to integrate with that agency management system, that it may require some additional key strokes, if you will, in terms of getting it into that agency management system when the mobile app is used by a client.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's fine. I mean, and I realize that there are those that mobile apps that are out there that are working that way in order to be able to deliver to the agent. But I just wanted to be clear that what it is not doing at this point in time is an automatic feed into their agency management system.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So, what kind of analytics can insurance agents access with regard to their mobile apps?
Yeah, so with analytics, both Apple and Google provide data for app installations and deletions and what they call app sessions, which, an app session is just, a user opens the app once and uses it for several minutes and then closes it. That's considered one session. So that data is available in each account. So, an agent can log in anytime they want to their Apple account or to their Google account, and they can see those. They can see how many people installed the app this month, how many deleted it, and then how many app sessions that their app had.
Okay. So they're really tracking activity, meaning, how much usage is happening out there with their client base.
Yeah, they're in terms of activity, they'll be able to see, how often do people open the app, how long do they typically stay there per day or per session.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the end of our time frame here. So I just wanted to ask if, and we've been talking to this for a few moments now, but is there some way you would summarize the value that a mobile app provides for an insurance agent?
Yeah, sure. There's so much that can be said about the value of a mobile app, but I think one of the most obvious ones is just that clients have come to expect it really. Um, I think that be- online banking has maybe set the standard for what consumers expect in terms of service from, especially from a financial institution, which insurance falls under. So, we all know how convenient it is just to, open your app on your phone, check your account balance, transfer money, and even, deposit checks. It's becoming a really rare thing for a lot of us to ever have to walk into a bank branch. We really have come to expect to be able to do that, all online. And we don't even want to have to pick up a phone anymore
Hmm.
if we don't have to, make a phone call to somebody.
Right.
So I think that, like I said, I think the banking apps and the banking companies have kind of set that expectation. And so all organizations, no matter their size, really do kind of need to follow that lead. And I think that customers do just kind of expect for an app to be an option for them. Um, and also, it helps independent agencies compete with the big, national, direct to consumer brands like I mentioned earlier, Geico, Progressive. They've all got apps, and they're going to really promote those apps, on television and on web ads. And even though you're kind of comparing apples to oranges in terms of what type of company and experience they can provide to a consumer, that may not be obvious. To a consumer, they might say, well, why doesn't my insurance carrier have an app? That's a really cool thing. That's a really good advantage. So having an app really does help keep that competitive edge for an independent agent.
Sure. So now I'm assuming that the mobile apps that you build for insurance agents require a login is on the part of the client once they download the app. Is that true?
No, actually they don't. Not until we get into, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have the agency integration, the agency management integrations. They don't require a login for the basic functionality. As I mentioned, just sending in that claim data and those requests. The only time that a user would have to log in would be if they want to make a payment through their carrier payment portal. That's the only time a login would be required. But just to submit a claim or to uh, make a policy change request, they don't have to log in.
Okay. So to actually conduct a transaction, they would need to log in, but they don't need to log in for many of the other functionalities of the mobile app itself. So when you do come out with the integration with the agency management systems, at that point you anticipate that you will require a login for those mobile apps. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for to use the part of the apps that would take advantage of that. So the way that we're working on it now is if a client, if an end user downloads an app that is integrated with one of those management systems, we still want to give them the option to submit those claims and make those policy requests without having to log in. But if they want to take advantage of seeing the live data related to their policies, then we would require them to log in because we really want to make it as convenient as possible for the end user and not have to require them to log in until it's absolutely necessary.
Okay. So when that happens, and this is the last thing I'll ask because we are out of time, but if when that happens and they get to a part where a login is required and the system prompts them for a login, do you anticipate that you'll be utilizing or integrating with like the facial recognition software and fingerprint sensor software that are now available on mobile phones, mobile devices?
I think that's definitely an option. Yeah, I think that's something that we will definitely try to integrate because I know how convenient those features are. And like I said, it's the like in the digital world and with apps, convenience is the name of the game. So I think that if that's an option for us, then we will absolutely take advantage of that. Yeah.
That's good to hear, because I do agree with you that it is about convenience. So that's a great deal. In this day and age, or in this time frame, it's about convenience and safety. So I think people are looking at it both ways. So thanks for sharing with our listeners, Tanner. Our guest today has been Tanner West, application developer at Code and Color, a mobile app and website designing hosting firm in Kingsport, Tennessee. And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA, and I hope you'll join us next time. To learn more about SIAA, the largest alliance of independent insurance agencies in the U.S., please visit SIAA.com.